Islam, of all the welterweights that fought today, who do you think had the most impressive performance besides yourself?
From today? Yeah, I saw the both fights, Prates, he beat former champion, like clear knockout. They're both very good, very tough, young. And I surprised how these guys who smoke all day beat the former champion.
If you thought UFC 322 was wild inside the cage, the chaos that erupted after the event might be even bigger. Because in a single weekend, we watched a brand new contender step out of the shadows and call out one of the most dominant fighters of this generation, Islam Makhachev. And not just a quiet challenge, Carlos Prates walked straight into the spotlight and practically dared Islam to take him on, claiming he'd be the easiest fight Makhachev could ask for. And while that fire was catching flame, things got even hotter over at lightweight because Paddy Pimblett finally snapped. After hearing Justin Gaethje talk about what he deserves, Paddy unloaded, calling him out for acting like a proper crybaby and saying nobody in the UFC is owed anything. Make sure you subscribe to MMA Desk and let's dive right in the video. Islam Makhachev did not just win another fight at UFC 322, he walked into Madison Square Garden with all the pressure in the world on his shoulders and walked out with even more power than before. He was already known as the lightweight king. People were already calling him one of the best fighters on the planet. But this time, he went up in weight, took on a dangerous striker in Jack Della Maddalena, and still found a way to dominate. From the very first round, you could feel the difference. Islam was calm. He was reading every move. Jack, on the other hand, looked like he was in a storm he didn't fully expect. You could see that grimace on his face, the tightness in his jaw, like every scramble and every defense was draining him. Some fans even started wondering if he came in with an injury because he just didn't look like his usual sharp, confident self. The commentators noticed it. Other fighters noticed it too. They weren't questioning Jack's heart. They were questioning if his body had betrayed him on the biggest night of his career. Still, none of that changes what Islam did. He pushed the pace, chained his takedowns, controlled the grappling, and reminded everyone why so many people compare him to Khabib. By the end, Islam wasn't just a champion. He was a double champ in spirit, the man who could rule more than one division. And with that kind of win on that kind of stage, every fighter from lightweight to welterweight suddenly had to ask themselves a scary question. Do I really want that guy calling my name next? But just when it looked like Islam had scared off half the roster, someone else did the exact opposite. Carlos Prates saw all that hype and walked straight toward it. Instead of backing down, he leaned in and called Islam out by name. And he didn't just ask for the fight politely, he did it with a twist that got everyone talking. He said he might be the easiest fight for Islam. At first, that sounds crazy. Islam is this monster everyone fears. Carlos is the guy who just knocked out Leon Edwards, the former welterweight champion, in brutal fashion. Yet here he is saying, yeah, I get taken down a lot. Yeah, people put me on my back. Come fight me. It'll be easy for you. On the surface, it sounds like he's selling himself short. But if you listen closely, you realize what he's really doing. He's playing mind games. He's saying, if you're really that good, prove it on me. I'm right here. Fans loved it because it didn't sound fake. It sounded like a man who knows his flaws, knows he has holes in his game, but still believes his power and his heart can shock the world again. That kind of honesty hits different. And then you add the funny part of Islam joking about how much Carlos likes to smoke, wondering how a guy who lights up that often can still knock out a former champ like that. It's friendly, but there's an edge. It feels like the start of a story, not the end of one. Suddenly people are making fantasy matchups, imagining what would happen if Islam's smothering pressure meets Carlos' wild, risky knockout style. And the best part, it all started with one bold call-out that nobody expected. While all of this noise was shaking up welterweight, the lightweight division was turning into its own kind of chaos. For years, lightweight has been one of the toughest divisions in the UFC. Legends, brawlers, technicians, all stacked on top of each other. Then Islam came in and ruled it, and now that he's flirting with welterweight greatness, there's a huge question floating over everything. What happens to 155? You've got contenders who have been sitting and waiting for their shot, guys who think they've done enough, and others who believe the UFC keeps skipping over them. Justin Gaethje, for example, has taken insane damage in his career and given fans some of the craziest fights we've ever seen. He believes he's earned one more crack at the belt and even said he might walk away if he doesn't get it. Then you have people like Arman Tsarukyan, who many hardcore fans see as a future champion, but he's not as loud, and that sometimes means less attention. On top of that, you have Ilia Topuria making his own waves, chasing greatness across divisions and hinting he might want big fights at lightweight too. It starts to feel like musical chairs. Every time the music stops, someone is left standing, upset, and ready to talk, and this is where words matter as much as wins. When a division is this crowded, it's not just about who is the best fighter, it's also about who can keep their name in the news, who can build a story the UFC can sell. So when Islam's legacy spreads from lightweight to welterweight, he doesn't just carry a belt. He leaves behind confusion, ambition, and a long line of hungry challengers wondering who the UFC will bless next. That tension is what makes the lightweight division so addictive right now. Every interview, every tweet, every call-out could be the thing that finally tilts the scales. In the middle of that storm stands one of the loudest voices in the game today, Paddy Pimblett. Love him or hate him, you can't pretend he doesn't move the needle. Paddy talks like he's backstage with his friends, not on a world stage with cameras rolling, and that's exactly why fans either cling to every word or can't stand him. When he heard Justin Gaethje talking about what he deserves and how the UFC owes him a title shot, Paddy didn't hold back. He flat out called him a crybaby and said no one in this sport is owed anything. In Paddy's mind, you fight, you win, you prove your worth, simple as that. And he even pointed out that in his last fight, he beat a higher-ranked opponent in more impressive fashion than Justin did in his. Now, some fans agree, others roll their eyes, but either way, they're talking about it. Then there's the storyline with Ilia Topuria. These two have history. They have real tension, not fake trash talk. Paddy sees Topuria with the belt and knows that a fight between them isn't just another matchup. It's a grudge match with gold on the line. He even admits that in a weird way, it's better for him that Topuria won because their story is already built. He doesn't have to create fake drama. It's there, it's real, and that's powerful. So when you put it all together, Paddy is not just trying to climb the rankings. He's trying to build a path where every step is louder than the last. Rip into Gaethje, point at Topuria. Keep his name linked to champions, legends, and big events. That's how you go from prospect to main event. And whether you think he's overrated or the future, you can't deny one simple fact. He's keeping himself right in the middle of every major conversation. All this noise doesn't just live in headlines. It crashes right into matchmaking and title talks. Because when one fighter calls out another, it's not just a random statement. It becomes a piece of the puzzle the UFC matchmakers have to look at. Islam at the top of two divisions, or at least threatening to rule both, forces the company to think long term. Do they keep him bouncing between weights like a video game boss? Do they strip a belt at some point? Do they build a massive champ versus champ type card around him? Then there's Carlos Prates, who just changed his whole life with one knockout and one fearless speech. Is it too soon to give him a title shot, or is his momentum too hot to ignore? On the other side, Paddy is pushing for big names. He wants Gaethje, he wants Topuria, he wants the kind of fights that move him straight into title range. Justin, meanwhile, feels like he has already done enough. He's bled for this company, he's knocked people out, he's been knocked out, and he believes that history should count for something. All these different views crash into one another behind closed doors. The UFC has to balance money, rankings, fan interest, and timing. One wrong move and a whole division feels stuffed. One perfect matchup and the sport explodes with excitement again. That's why these callouts are not just trash talk, they are like job applications, sales pitches, and threats all rolled into one. The fighters are not just asking for a fight, they are asking for a chance to change their careers, their legacies, and their bank accounts. And fans are watching every move, judging every choice, and arguing every matchup in the comments like their lives depend on it. Of course, nothing in MMA is simple. There are always wild cards and strange twists that nobody sees coming. Injuries pop up, fighters miss weight, people pull out late, and last-minute replacements step in and steal the show. Sometimes a fight that looks like a stay busy matchup turns into a brutal upset that flips the whole division upside down. Think about how fast things turn for Leon Edwards. One second he's a champion, the next he's lying on the canvas after a knockout from Carlos Prates, and the entire conversation shifts away from his legacy and onto the new guy. You also have stuff happening outside the cage that builds tension. Coaches get blamed for bad corner advice. Like in Jack Della Maddalena's fight, where some fighters and analysts thought his corner was just yelling for more effort instead of giving him real technical help. That adds drama. People start asking questions like, did the corner fail him? Or what would have happened with different instructions? Then there are moments like Dylan Dennis getting into trouble outside the cage at UFC events, getting into fights with influencers or security, and even getting banned from future shows. None of that changes the rankings, but it changes how fans feel about certain names. It adds emotion. It gives people someone to cheer for or against even harder. And all of that atmosphere matters when we talk about who deserves the next big fight, because this sport is not clean and tidy. It's messy, loud, and full of storylines that crash into each other in the strangest ways. When you zoom out and look at everything together, you start to see a much bigger picture forming. Islam Makhachev is not just stacking wins, he's shaping two divisions at once. His dominance at lightweight and his power at welterweight make him the center of a huge web of stories. Carlos Prates is trying to turn one knockout and one bold call-out into a life-changing opportunity. Paddy Pimblett is trying to talk and fight his way from fan favorite to real title threat by going straight at names like Justin Gaethje and Ilia Topuria. Gaethje is caught between his legendary fight history and the reality of a crowded division that never stops moving. And all along the way, Little moments, like a grimace on a fighter's face, a coach's bad advice, or a wild brawl outside the cage, keep adding layers to the story. That's what makes this time in MMA feel so alive. Nothing is set in stone. Any fight night can rewrite the rankings. Any interview can spark a new rivalry. Any call-out can turn into the next big main event. So as we watch all these pieces move around after UFC 322, one thing is clear. The drama is not slowing down. If anything, it's just starting to heat up. When the dust finally settles on everything that happened around UFC 322, one thing becomes clear. This moment isn't just another chapter in MMA, it's the beginning of something bigger. Islam Makhachev is pushing into rare territory, shaping two divisions at once, and forcing every fighter around him to level up or get left behind. Carlos Prates has gone from a dangerous underdog to one of the boldest voices in the welterweight division, ready to test himself against the scariest champion in the sport. Paddy Pimblett is stirring the pot like only he can, calling out legends, sparking arguments, and putting his name into every major conversation in lightweight. And Justin Gaethje, as always, stands at the center of the chaos, loved by fans but frustrated by a division that moves too fast for anyone to control. All of these stories crash into each other, creating a wave of hype, pressure, and possibility that will shape the UFC's next year. Every fight from here on out matters, every interview matters, every call-out matters. That's why fans are glued to this moment, because nobody knows which twist is coming next. If you want to stay ahead of all the madness, make sure you subscribe to MMA Desk for non-stop coverage, updates, and breakdowns.